Hey everybody, welcome back to the Personal Transformation Podcast. My name is Dan Storey, and today I'm up for a debate and a heated conversation. I can tell this is going to be a good one. I've got Dr. Axa Yox today, and we're going to talk about comfort zones amongst anything. Dr. Axa Yox has a book called Stop Calling It a Comfort Zone, and one of the things I think I've learned about myself is we get very stuck. I talk about the trap of average. We get stuck in this comfort zone that we create for ourselves, and our brain. Our psychology is wired to maintain that status quo, and rarely do we get unstuck and get out of it. So Dr. Axa Yox, thanks for coming on the show. Excited to find out your perspectives on what is this comfort zone and how potentially we can escape it if we need to do something a little bit different. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for hosting. And yes, let's get some map for people to unstuck from their comfort zone.
Is it a map? Do we actually need a map? Because here's the thing, I think most people know the way out. It's like I'm in this stuck situation. I know I need to go over there. Well, actually, I don't. I know I don't want to be over there. I think it's over there. So do we need a map, or do we need something else to get out of our comfort zone?
It's interesting because I found it to be true for myself. I was quite stuck in my so-called comfort zone, though I was very progressive. Because I was very successful in science, then I decided that I did already 12 inventions. I'm ready for the regular life. So I quit academia. I failed so bad. I went through real dark times, and then I published the book because I was searching the answer for myself. I couldn't let the past go. And let past go, it would freak me out instead of calming me, right? It's supposed to play a different role. So that's how my past started, searching for the answer, how to let the past go. It took me 3 years, actually.
Oh, wow.
The moment that I found what I needed to let go, I let it go in 1 second. But it took me 3 years to find what I needed to let go. And being stuck in comfort zone, actually, it worked for me once I found my why and the clear path where I want to move forward. I didn't want to stay in my comfort zone, so-called comfort zone. I believe people doubt how do they see their better future. That's why when they compare whatever they have at the moment and the not very bright future, whatever not promised, not guaranteed, because the future is not guaranteed. Even if we take the risk and we quit our comfort zone, there is no guarantee. You just start to rely on yourself. You trust yourself better, and then you prefer the growth over staying stuck. But that's kind of a tricky thing, because when we call the zone where we're unhappy, unhealthy, and unfulfilled to be a comfort zone, we signal our brain that we are comfortable to be unhappy, unhealthy, and unfulfilled. So we create that the meaning for ourselves. What is the comfort for us?
I see.
And then you would sabotage yourself, because your brain would be like, okay, that's you decided, that's your comfort zone. I'm just repeating the pattern and the habits that you created for yourself for over decades. And you will sabotage yourself, because we are by nature, the nature created the subconscious to protect us, to keep us safe, so we survive. But the conscious, which is developing while we are kids, and we already, when we are still kids and we don't have the developed conscious, right? It still keeps piling up that habits which are built unconsciously. And by the time we can analyze what's happening, why do we do this? What's the meaning? First of all, we are already occupied with many stuff, like the school, the friends, society. We have some responsibilities, and we don't have the time, and still we don't have the knowledge to analyze all these piles that we have since we were kids. But it already set up the biochemistry for our body. And then we simply just react to the biochemistry, which was built over the decades without even realizing. Because the biochemistry, when the biochemistry shifts, forget. It's three levels for the biochemistry. So it's the basic level, which are the hormones, and the hormones are built, they're designed by nature to keep us safe. Then we have the second level, which is the simple neurotransmitters, which give the like we need to assess the situation, and we give the assumptions. Like we start with, what does this mean for us? Is it safe for us? And it might be either negative, depending on the environment you grew up in, or it could be positive. If it is negative, so you still have the tank which you fill with the negative emotions, because you analyze the situation. And then you have the third level, which is the highest level. Depending on how you want to perceive the situation and how do you want to continue, you can still change. Even you have the negative perspective and you don't see better future, or you don't know how to do it better, you still have the option to change it. And those are the three levels that we have to break the links between. Only then you can rewire your brain. Otherwise, you would just slide back to your comfort zone and keep repeating the biochemistry, and to fulfill the biochemistry and meet your needs, which you built over the decades. Forget it.
Man, here's what we should do, and this is what I'm thinking. I'm going to talk this out loud, but we should make this an audience poll, right? Because I can see this conversation going like in a million different ways, and so we should have made this a live event. It's like, vote number 1 to go in this direction, number 2 to go in here. So, yeah, I want to talk about your kind of history, how you came to this realization that your comfort zone wasn't your comfort zone. I want to talk about the biochemistry. Let's see where we go first. Okay, I'm going to go with my gut first. Again, our neurochemistry has already said, look, we're going this way, so we'll follow it. 12 inventions, a PhD in, I can only imagine something biochemistry related or something like that. I've looked at your kind of resume of like awards this and most like amazing person this. You've got like a list of awards as long as you possibly could go. Anybody who looked at that went, that's a career academist. That's somebody who's going to spend their entire life, and they're going to end up in kind of the 70s and 80s still publishing papers. Question, how did you realize that wasn't your comfort zone?
I think the life circumstances just changed, and I was ready to take the challenge, because I am always after the challenge. That's kind of brought me to the point to have several inventions, because I was always after something new, which is not done by now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And in academia, normally you have to read all the literature and figure out what was done before, and then you continue. But even in academia, people just simply, they see this was done before, but this was not done for this object, So that's the innovation that they go. That's the easiest thing to do. And there is a part of people in academia who just go after something which was not done completely before. It's very risky because you can fail. But in academia, that's kind of the difference that I learned about academia and the business. In academia, there is no failing, because you just learn what didn't work. In business, there is no something like that. You fail, you lose the business. And that was something that I was learning. I knew I was not used to. I failed. I really failed. In academia, you just fail. That's it, nothing more. But then you start to learn, and you see, and changing the environment and coming to the US and seeing the life from different perspectives, completely different perspective. That was the moment of breakthrough. Like, I realized I'm missing so much because I'm staying in my comfort zone, so-called comfort zones. I'm playing small because I don't know the things. But then I was like, okay, I didn't know the science as well, but I was learning step by step, right? We were never born with knowing all the things that we know by now. So step by step, simply moving forward, seeing what exists in the world, and realizing that people were achieving step by step as well. So they didn't wake up in the morning having all the stuff, right? You have to move forward. I just assessed the situation, and I made the choice to go after the heart, but something that not many people go after, versus to stay in so-called comfort zone and being miserable, because I was miserable in my comfort zone. And that's what changed in for me, because if you still call the comfort zone to be a comfort zone and you are more or less comfortable, you will stay there. But if you make your comfort zone so uncomfortable, so you have to flip. It's not to be comfortable to be uncomfortable, it's to be uncomfortable to stay comfortable. That's when you will move. Because if you see something is coming, let's say, to harm you, what is the percentage of people who would stay there and decide that it's okay if something harms me? Most of people, unfortunately, most 80% of people, they would stay there. They would be like, okay, at least I know how, like, what percentage of the harm I can carry. And only 10 or 20% of people would move without any guarantee that it could be even worse. But this harm I don't want to take anymore. So that's what you have to just move. You have to be willing to explore the new territories, and to fail. That's one of the major things that I can tolerate, failing. I'm not scared to fail, maybe because I always knew that I'm capable of doing many things. That's why sometimes I can ask the dumbest question. People would be like, you're not scared. People would think that you are dumb. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't know the things, but you just move forward and you learn the things, right? So I was never uncomfortable to fail, to learn the things, to be embarrassed. That's another advantage that I have. I can fall. People would be like, oh, it was so embarrassing. And I was like, embarrassing? I just fall. What's the problem with that? So the tolerance that I have towards the regular human things, which many people consider to be humiliating, for me, it's okay. It's life. Just move on. The chances that you will see the same people the next year, or you will stay in the same so-called comfort zone or at the same level, are lower if you keep moving. Just keep moving. If you don't like something, change it. If you are unhappy, change it. Life is too hard.
Yeah, and this is the thing with academia, isn't it? Like you said, it's just a hypothesis. It's just an idea that I've got, and I'm going to go and test it. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, and the data will tell me either way. And, you don't take it personally to some extent, right? It's not like and then you find out that result, and then say, okay, well, I'll move on to the next experiment, and I'll try this one. But so many people kind of do this, and then they do the same experiment, and they do the same experiment, and then they're like, just I can't do it anymore, and they just keep running the same loop, like you said. You mentioned something, which is something interesting. Letting go. You had to let go of something. I find people get really stuck on identity. Like, we have years of experience, and you're the academics. You have that experience. You said, I'm good at this. I can do this, and I'm comfortable here. And this is something where I know I could be successful. Over here is unknown, and you've got some aptitudes and some beliefs that kind of keep you like, oh, that sounds exciting and shiny, and you can carry on for it. But some people find that terrible, and so they stay stuck on their former identity and aren't able to evolve. What was it? And you said there was something specific that you had to let go. What was it that you had to let go, and how did you do that?
I realized that there was something that happened, like the blame from my childhood, that I needed to let go. It was just piling up, and it was structuring my future and the relationship with people around me. And that was what I needed to let go. yeah, we all have kind of the blame. But before you understand why you do particular things, why you choose, let's say, why you choose particular partner, what motivation do you have behind? Because the why is very interesting question if you are willing to go deep enough. If you go surface, like if you just scrub the surface, no, that's not. You have to be willing to dig deep to the worst questions and the answers that you might even sometimes figure out for yourself, because not so many people are willing to learn why they do the particular things, right? We can make the wrong choice. We can do the not only the hard stuff. We can prefer to do the easy stuff. Why you do that? There is always reason behind, and it's not that surface as you can imagine. It's really deep. And when you come back to the basic, the initial level, and you realize that everything, that's what I was telling from the very beginning. When you pile up everything subconsciously, unconsciously, once you are still a child, before your conscious can even analyze, you already have all these piles, and you have to be willing to go back in time and to find the first brick that you put there as a stepping stone, and then you took the wrong way. Like you took the wrong direction, simply because, like, when you start to button the shirt, right? If you button the first one wrong, then the rest goes wrong. The same is with us but you have to find the first button. Otherwise, you would just keep doing the same wrong thing without analyzing. Like, we go for the social events, we watch the internet, like social media is huge at the moment, right? TV or any activities, just to fill our life with the variety, like the interesting things. But we don't realize that it's the same thing. That's why sometimes people, they can go for they prefer as a release, like the sweets, right? That's huge. And then we exclude sweets because we think we need to care after our health. But then you go with the videos. You exclude videos because you spend your time, you waste your time, then you do something else. So it's the same thing, it's just only masked with a different face, event, anything, but it doesn't serve you. That was one of the biggest discoveries for me. You don't go to the different events, you meet different people. No, you do the same thing, which is not serving you. So you have to be willing to see the situation as it is, not worse as it is, but still not better as it is. So, I'm going for the events. No, if you go to the event and you do the wrong thing over and over again, you will end up having the same results over and over again. So you have to see the base, why you do that, why you do what you do, and what is the outcome. If you do the same thing and you have the same outcome, there is a need to change either way, because otherwise you will just go the same cycle. The loop.
Definitely. No, it's something that I'm being aware of as well as a dad now. You know, my daughter, she turned 5 on the weekend, and that's a birthday party, dressing as princesses. All the girls were there, and some of the boys as well, dressed as knights. But it's something that I'm aware of. Like, I'm trying to teach by example. You know, I have to use words. I know to do that. I have to get her to behave, but I also want to encourage her freedom and choice and all those things. It's difficult, and you know, she's socializing, and I know, you know, we go through these stages and we socialize and we learn from our peers and everyone around us, so definitely trying to be aware of that. And obviously, as a bodybuilder, I am the sugar police at home, so I'm trying to kind of reduce, not eliminate it, but kind of control candy and kind of sugar consumption to some extent. But also, like you said, the same with video, right? Video is exactly the same. Like, she watches YouTube occasionally, I'm like, no, turn that rubbish off, because it's like candy for your brain. It's just going to rot it. So yeah, very, very aware of that, and like the patterns that imprints. Like, I want her to learn discipline. I want her to learn prioritization. I want her to learn all of these things as she grows up, so that hopefully when she gets a little bit older, she can make better decisions and not kind of get stuck in these loops that, you know, I've been destined to try and figure out. So you talked about this. So you have this realization, and let's say we look at our situation, and where I talk about dissatisfaction and you know, as a tool that gets us motivated, and not using comparison. I always use Dave's. Oh, well, Dave's got it worse, so we are able to take off, you know, the pressure off. But once we can harness that and say, right, I do want to make a positive change, what is it that we need to do? So you talked a few things there about being aware of the changes, or kind of knowing that we're not getting the results we want. How do we, once we're in this kind of zone of, we're in our comfort zone, but we're uncomfortable in it, so we need to move, what are some of the things that we can do? Like, what's that map that you talked about at the beginning? Like, how do we get out of this this zone? I can't even remember whether to call it a comfort zone or an uncomfort zone now.
Mhm. I believe it's the bigger picture that you see for yourself, and the purpose, why you do what you do. What's the end results that you want to have? If the end result is something, first of all, if you see the bigger picture, you still have to split the bigger picture. Otherwise, you will procrastinate. It's impossible. Like, the bigger picture you cannot achieve in one day or in 1 week, and then you just start to sabotage yourself. Anyway, I'm not reaching there. So you need still to see the bigger picture, but not the bigger picture like, I want this, I want that, I want. No, what do you want, like, as overall goal? What do you want to achieve? Do you want to leave some positive legacy? Do you want to help people? What do you want? Or you want regular life, which is normal as well, because even if you are good for your family, for your friends, it's already positive thing that you do, right? If people who remember you, they start to smile, you lived really good life, because people associate you with the positive thing. So you need to see the bigger picture for yourself. You need to know, where do you move, even if whatever you have, and that's the plan for the future as well, that's fine as well. So you don't want to change because you already achieved everything in life, and you just need to sustain that. That's fine as well. Some people who are in transformation, who realize that what we were doing since our childhood, and the transformation and the change that happens in the world at the moment, we want something different. And once you transition from the previous so-called comfort zone, and you have no guarantee where you will end, because we are doing the podcast right at the moment. We have some purpose to deliver the opinion, to deliver what else can be done. I did this. I was very successful in science. I decided to quit. I failed miserably. And but I was willing to take that risk and to quit the academia. So it's possible. You just transfer your experience, and you said, no, that's okay. If you are going through the hell, just please don't stop. You will see, even if you don't know what is the end, where do you move, just keep going forward. Don't stay where you are unhappy, because that's the worst thing that you can do to yourself. If you are unhappy, you need to change that. You need to admit to yourself that you are doing something wrong, and that's very hard. I believe the negative self-talk is a bad thing, but from different perspective, it's a good thing as well. So it depends what is the intention behind. Why do you sabotage yourself, right? If you sabotage yourself for the purpose, then you have to change it. If your self-negative talk helps you to admit, I'm doing wrong, if you do only the positive self-talk, you will not progress sometimes.
Yeah.
You will just dilute yourself. No, I'm doing everything right. No, So self-negative talk, unless you beat yourself up for something which you cannot change, then it's not very beneficial. But if you admit yourself, I'm doing wrong, and that's the transformation I went through for the last 3 years. Every single day I was searching what I do wrong. That brought me here. And that's the hardest self-talk that you can have with yourself, because you have to figure out what you do wrong, why you are there. It's not easy, and you have to be compassion. You have to have compassion to yourself to admit, okay, I did that wrong. I'm in this situation, but I'm willing to take the risk and change it, because I don't want to continue the same life. So be kind to yourself. Don't stop this negative self-talk in a bit different way. Like, I do things wrong. You have to admit that. Otherwise, you will keep doing the same things wrong. Admit that. Admit that you are willing to change it. It's not very easy, and change it.
Yeah. I remember years ago, and I gave him a shout out the other day, so hopefully he appreciates my appreciation. But when I was younger, like 18 years old, I played American football. I actually ended up playing for Great Britain. I did quite well. And my coach was constructively criticism. But he did it in an American football coach way. He would grab the face cage on my helmet and come right up, like we were right in each other's faces, and scream at me. Now, I'm probably dramatizing this a little bit. And we elaborate things in our brain a little bit, but that's how I remember it, right? Bits of spit in the face and everything. Like, Dan, why do you like all of these things? How he said it wasn't great, but what he said, like you said, if you can cut through that, was super useful. Like, I was like, okay, well, yeah, I need to do this differently. I need to improve these areas. So I think, like you said, that self-criticism can be useful. And, it can help. If we ask that question, what am I doing wrong? Then we can uncover some gems, right? I think the other thing that we need to remember is when we learn to drive. I don't know, where are you from? Where's home originally? Where did you learn to drive?
Oh, I learned to drive here in Miami.
Okay. So, hey, that's the easiest place to drive in the world, right? You have giant highways. Nobody really cares anyway. So I learned somewhere similar in England. And my driving instructor, a guy called Graham York, he still does it. It's just years ago. He still takes a little white car up and down my mum's road. He said, like, give him a little wave. But when we learned to drive, he had pedals on his side of the car. Don't have to do the same in the States. Because we had gears and manual stick shift. And the first lesson, it was basically me on the steering wheel and controlling the accelerator. He did everything else. He did the gears, the brakes, all of these bits and pieces. And gradually we added things in to the mix. He didn't take me immediately onto the fastest road, throw all of these cars in here, get me doing the gears, changing lanes, indicating, doing the stereo, all of these things all at the same time. He added one bit on at a time. Which is the most important next step? What is the most important lesson to learn this week? And whether he's a great instructor or whatever, we just learn fast. It worked. But I think we forget that we try and fix everything all at the same time, and we try and change everything. And that's, like you said, we get overwhelmed. We try and do too much all at the same time, and we try and do it within 2 weeks. I'm on a school holiday, so I'm going to fix myself. Let's go. And we get overwhelmed, and then we burn out, and then we're like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go back because this doesn't work.
Yeah. If something doesn't work, you have to change it. If you are willing to change, because it's not, if it would be easy, 80% of people would not fail. 80%, it's huge number. So why do people fail? If we have all the possible answers at the moment, like there are so many brilliant motivational speakers, and they have all the tools, they tell us how to do, right? But we still sabotage ourselves. So there is a reason why you sabotage yourself, and that's what you have to be willing to unravel and to find what is the base. And you would be surprised, because many people like to pretend, as we started. That's the main problem of humans. We learn to pretend. And we will learn to pretend against our will. We don't like something, we pretend we like it. Somebody was mean to us, we pretend that that's fine. No, that's not. That's why there is so much wrong forgiveness in the world. I know that people would hate me telling that, but I believe there is too much forgiveness in the world. Because when we forgive, we teach people to be mean to us. Like unconditional love. There is no unconditional love. Is it intentionally good thing to say unconditional love? Like you can be mean to me and I have to love you?
Yeah.
So unconditional love, it's such a jolted and like flip meaning behind. It's completely different. And we need to remember that as well. Every person has some experience, and based on the experience, they read your message. If I tell you, like if I tell in the society ice cream, every person would not even go only for the ice cream. They will right away go for their favorite flavor. They will imagine how it looks like, how it tastes, and it's completely different to somebody who was enjoying ice cream and tragedy happened, right? So when I tell you the message, you always take it as depending on the experience that you have. If the person doesn't take whatever is happening, you shouldn't take it personally. You always have to think what's going on in that person's life. For me, one of the best decisions that I made for myself, if somebody is mean to me, I never take it personally. I always ask what's going on in the life of that person, because when you are unhappy, then you insult other people. There is no other reason that you can insult. If you are happy, you never insult people. You are never mean to somebody, right?
Yeah.
You might pretend that everything is fine, but the reason that you are trying to revenge, like to be mean to somebody, is because you are imbalanced inside. So if somebody is mean to me, I never say, oh, they were mean to me. No, I always ask what the person is going through, that the person was mean to me. And it helps huge time, because you see the world differently. You approach the same meaning the person expressed from different angle, and you don't take the thing personal, because we all go through the hard times. We all, more or less from different angle, but still every person fights the battle, and you don't know about that. Be kind to each person that you can. Don't
Yeah.
be
You were mentioning it earlier, like we flip forgiveness, right? We forgive people who do things that we shouldn't forgive, and then we're harsh on the things that we should probably be a little bit more patient with, namely on ourselves, right? We're too hard on ourselves. We should be forgiving ourselves a little bit more, and okay to say what we want in certain situations as well. Let's talk about fairness a little bit, because this is one of the topics you kind of mentioned at the beginning. Is life fair? Like, here's the thing. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on about diversity, equity, and inclusion. To make things fairer. There's some of that is being dialed back now. We should accept everything. We should like take people as they are, and all of those kind of various bits and pieces. A lot of that's kind of gone too far and is now being dialed back. People are trying to make the world fairer. We're trying to have equal representation in places that, frankly, do we need equal representation? I don't know. Seems to be very selective in those areas. Talk to me about fairness. What's your perspective on fairness, and should we be trying to make the world a bit fairer?
I believe world will never be a fair place. Forget about that. But whatever exists as fairness, right? We always take it's unfair if it is not in our favor. If something happens and we worked for that hard, we take it as granted, and we know that we worked for that hard. We would never sit there and say, oh, life was so unfair. Why did I get all this stuff for me? No, we would be like, yes, I worked for that. Imagine that you with your classmate you work hard for the exams and the other person just have the party, and in the morning you go for the exam and you both get A, because life is fair. The professor decided life is fair, let's go for all of them A. You would be freaking out, right? So if we take the things which are unfair in our advantage, like in our favor, that's fine. But the beauty about that is when life is unfair, you can take the advantage of that. So you can work harder and achieve more instead of being like meeting all this fairness and being somewhere where everyone is the same, because sameness is not always good. I don't want to be the same. I want to stand out always. That was my purpose. Whatever I did, that's maybe the reason that I did 12 inventions, because I always wanted to stand out, to be different, to do something which is not as gray as the other mess, whatever is done. So that's where the unfairness comes in. When I came to the US, I didn't speak very good English, and I didn't have any day when people would not insult me for my accent, even up to now. In the very beginning, it was very offensive, but then I was like, why do you take it personally? Why do you know who you are? You know your potential. English is not even your second language. It's your third language. And you don't even get to talk too much during the day. So how do you experience? And then step by step, my injustice, unfairness that I had when I moved to the new country, I didn't know anyone. I flipped it in my advantage. I made it my unfair advantage, because I was pushing and I was doing the things while other people would just relax because they thought that they belong to this country, while I knew that I don't, and I need to pace my path, and I don't want to stay somewhere. So that's completely different. Even with the office where I worked, it took me just only 3 months to completely change everything in the office and raise the productivity for 70%. The office was working for 30 years and they didn't see the differences. So whatever is unfair, you can flip it and use it you can make it unfair advantage for yourself, because life is not same for everyone. Take advantage of that. Don't complain that life is unfair. Take advantage.
Yeah, I had this argument with my dad the other day, in a positive way. So my dad is a bit more traditional, let's put it that way, and is from the north of England, which is they had a lot of industry back in the day, and a lot of that moved away. And so there's a lot of resentment for government and kind of things along those lines, and especially around capitalism and kind of free markets and stuff. So it's a lot union-y type thinking. And we had this conversation. I don't disagree with him, because I think it's really tough in those environments. But I also said this. I said, look, you can't, like, do you still go to Blockbusters to get your VHS? Or, do you use Netflix? I think he still uses my Netflix account. I said, the biggest example I can give is the taxi drivers in London, right? If you've ever been to London taxi drivers, like they drive along, you can wave them down, and occasionally they'll stop if they feel like it. They're not very comfortable, these cars. They're good for getting in and out, and but just jump into the street, and they're pretty expensive. They're not. It's not comfortable. You just have to wait on the side of the road. They're expensive. They're not. That's not a great experience for me. And so you mentioned something there as disruption. It's like, if you're not satisfied with it, change it. So then the Uber comes along, and they're like, oh, that's not fair. It's like, well, fair for who? Fair for who? It's maybe not fair for you as the drivers, but you guys have been in a situation where you've frankly not tried to change anything to improve the lives for consumer, and then these guys have come along and changed everything up, and now you're complaining it's not fair. This is what a lot of people look at, is disruption is going to happen, change and evolution is going to happen, and if we try and stay in the same place and keep things as they are or as they were, we're going to get left behind. That's just nature. That's going to happen in everywhere. It's going to happen in the north of England. And as hard as it is, there's got to be some form of move forward and figure out what the next step is. It's the same with taxi drivers, the same with real estate. I was working for WeWork when we went through this kind of crazy, let's change the commercial real estate world, and everything got thrown up in the world. And it's changed now. It's changed because that disruption happened. We can't just go back and say, oh, I want it to be the same way. Like you say, life is not fair. Life is waiting for people to come and disrupt it. And that's what you had to do, right? You had to come in and say, well, okay, well, don't have the language, don't have the experience, all of these things, but I'm not going to let that hold me back.
No, nothing. Unless you decide to stay behind, then you will stay behind. The world will, like with AI at the moment, it's unfair to so many people, really. People lose their jobs. But together with this, you can take the unfair advantage of the disruption and use it in your favor. So wherever there is an unfairness, there is an option to grow. Before, we didn't have that because we were not stuck, but still it was kind of, we pretended to have that even society where people are not so wealthy and the other, like there is no difference between the people. But when you work hard, like I am in the country where there are so many immigrants. I came to the country. I didn't use anything that the country provides for people. I worked every single day because that was my choice. But so many people, they come and they use everything the system gives. It's so much unfair to me because I am working hard to achieve something. But at the same time, first of all, I change my temper because I know that I want more. So I don't settle for less. And I don't want that. So once you learn to see different meaning behind the things, that's when the things change. Because you can sit and complain, or you can move forward and then see how I can use that unfairness in the world in my favor.
I think the challenge, and just we'll kind of move on from this, we're nearly at time, but it's use those resources. Like, I'm not against people kind of going to a place, using the resources so they can set something up, but it's just when they become dependent on it and they just use that and say, okay, well, that's all I'm going to do now. I'm not going to challenge myself to get out of this place. I think we should make opportunity available for everyone. Like, this is, the thing, it's like, wherever you're from,
it will never be the case. Opportunities for everyone. If you want the opportunity, you will find everywhere. If you don't want,
but we shouldn't hold people back. The opportunity there, capitalism is there. You can go and start a business now for no money. You can go online, like most places you have access. There will be resistance. Like, maybe you don't have your own laptop or it's breaking like mine is today. So you have to walk to the library or use a public one. So what? Like, that's your investment. That's you getting over the hurdle that most people won't. Like you said, the 80% say, oh, it's too much work. It's like, if you're in that 20%, nothing's going to hold you back. Nothing's going to stop you. It could be raining, stuff could break. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And that's a mindset thing, which clearly you've kind of demonstrated in spades since shifting away from academia. Like I said, there were so many areas. We wanted to play with brain chemistry. I think we've talked about getting uncomfortable. It is. We do need to get uncomfortable. We do need to stop allowing ourselves, I think, two things. Number one, to let ourselves off the hook, to say somebody else has got it worse than us, so it's not as bad as it could be. But I also think, and this is something we talked about at the beginning, is just comparing ourselves to others. We're only ever comparing ourselves to the perfect version. Like, social media makes things seem perfect all the time, and it's not. And we've got to stop pretending that things are perfect, because that also in and of itself, like you said, creates the uncomfortable comfort zone, right?
Yes. Create the uncomfortable comfort zone.
Axa, this has been fun. What's the takeaway message? If people are kind of flicking through to the end of the book and they get to this point, what's the one thing you want people to think and remember as a result of this conversation?
I want also to mention about the help, because that's something that I learned from myself. We use the word without realizing too much, asking for the help. Because for the tiny things, which it might happen that you need the assistance, you need the guidance, but not help. But in our mind, help, it's a very strong meaning, the word with the strong background. So if you ask for help and somebody didn't help you, you feel yourself powerless. And reminding yourself and asking for the help keeps you in this loop of helplessness, instead of just only ask. Because do me a favor, please, ask for help. Can you help me?
Axa, can you help me?
Yeah, and say, can you assist me on this?
Can you assist me on this?
Can you guide me? Do you feel the difference inside?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's not a dead end. It's like,
yeah, it's
yeah.
not the dead end, right? Because, and we use the word help so many times without even realizing that we keep ourselves in this loop of helplessness, while it's just only the assistance. Okay, you didn't you didn't assist me, I'll ask somebody else. So those are the tiny things that we pile up and we shift our biochemistry without realizing. And then we already continue the complete day based on the start, like how you launched your day. Just know what is the further purpose, like the bigger purpose, what is the bigger picture, split it, know where you're moving, and every single day, don't be scared to figure out why you do the things. Just, yeah, dive deeper inside of you and find the first stepping stone that you started when you were a child, and then you just continued your steps based on that. Change it. If there is something that you don't like, change it. It's not fair. You would be amazed how unfair the life is to me as well. But I don't take it personal, not because I can't, because it's not serving me. If it doesn't serve you, change it.
Yep.
Life is so short and it's so beautiful. Make people smile every time when they remember about you.
That's it. Well, listen, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Whether you call it a comfort zone or an uncomfort zone now, if you're not satisfied and if you're not happy with things as the way they are, then look at why you do what you do and try and figure out if there's a better way than just keeping up with the status quo. Dr. Axa Yox, thank you so much. If people want to find out a little bit more about you or find out more about their uncomfortable comfort zones, how can they get in touch?
So I have my book on Amazon. They can approach there. And also I have the landing page, so they can get 90% off for the book, the same book. Yes. And I'm very active on LinkedIn and Facebook, so they can approach me.
Perfect. I will put all of those links in the show notes. But Dr. Axa Yox, thank you so much. Thank you for ditching academia and coming and sharing some ideas of how we can all live a little bit better.
Thanks a lot.